Well, for more on China's manufacturing industry, I'm joined by Wang, live from Chicago. He's principal analyst and founder of Constellation Research, Inc. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, Rachelle, how you doing?
Good, thank you. Now, let's start with the slowdown that we saw in September's Taishin market PMI data, which mainly covers small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs. What's your take on this latest data?
I actually think that data and that index is actually more accurate and reflective of what's happening within China's economy. That manufacturing index actually reflects the orders that small businesses have to get to. If you understand their dynamics, they have access to lower levels of credit. They're more responsive in terms of what they have to do in the supply chain. And so it's a better indicator. It's more of a leading indicator of where the manufacturing trends are happening. And it's reflecting kind of the shifts in terms of the quality of manufacturing that has to be delivered and the volumes of productions that people are taking orders.
So looking at those shifts, then, what can we expect in terms of growth for SMEs when it comes to manufacturing and other sectors?
Well, we're actually seeing a shift as organizations build manufacturing from products to services. This business model transformation of going to products and services is led by a couple things. It's connectivity to the cloud or internet, and the ability to actually build products as services like Internet of Things. A great example is today a company might sell a toaster and they'll never hear from the customer unless there's a problem. But in the future, if the toaster is connected to the internet, you now have the ability to add new features. And more people will register to be connected. And pretty soon, services will be delivered by the manufacturer, not just the product. So the service could be, hey, Rachelle, you've got 1,000 more toasts left on your toaster. When would you like a new one? Would you like an upgrade on the toaster? Ultimately, we'll get to a point where we say, look, pay us $2 a month. Every month for the next 3 years, we'll replace your toaster if something breaks anytime within the next 3 years. That type of shift is actually happening, whether it's lighting, whether it's toasters, appliances, high-tech equipment. We're seeing that first shift occur.
So given some of that strategic shift that we're seeing, we know that the government is exploring a number of measures to really help boost SME growth, whether it's providing banks with preferable tax and reserve ratio policies for lending to some of these rural areas and SMEs. What do you think could be some other strategies to help boost SMEs?
Well, I think one of the bigger strategies that the government can pursue is really helping these organizations build trading networks, getting the SMEs connected to the monitoring service that would then go out and monitor how these toasters are doing or how appliances are doing or how certain parts are doing. And by opening up trading networks connected to the internet, maybe through blockchain, maybe through the new Chinese internet, it gives them the ability to actually efficiently connect, efficiently trade, but more importantly, control their demand signals. Right now, most of the problems in manufacturing have been overproduction, lack of good forecasting, and by actually improving those demand signals, trying to identify where orders will be placed or creating those marketplaces, the government can actually help assist that and accelerate that trading process. The other piece that's actually big is going to be in automation, and we're going to see a big shift. The good news in China is that there is a population dynamic that looks like this because of the one-child policy, and that means there may be less workers. Workers are getting older, and so there's a lesson to be learned by following what Japan has done over the last 10 to 15 years, which is increase robotics, robotic automation where possible, and starting to actually create tax credits for that type of equipment to be introduced in a lot of these factories.
Now, we're starting to see some of that streamlining, as you mentioned, with automation. And then China also has some of these capacity cuts that it's trying to make in steel and other sectors. How is that affecting the whole picture?
Well, the challenge is that it's kind of a market economy, but not truly a market economy. And so once we get to like pure demand curves and supply curves, then organizations can actually price out materials much easier. They can get a lot more efficiencies in the system, and there won't be these big overproduction busts that keep happening in a lot of these areas. Now, the other piece, too, is that there is a lot of capacity. Sometimes it's not very efficient capacity, and I think there's an opportunity for the government to help streamline or restructure some of these manufacturing entities to get to that capacity. Now, the last piece, which you hinted on, which is really smart, is going to be the need to actually think about what is that rural manufacturing strategy, what is that in these newer areas as they build other economic zones. There may be a need to concentrate certain types of industries in more regions than others, and that may drive the ability to actually reduce some of the capacity, the overcapacity, inefficient manufacturing, while optimizing the efficient type of capacity